The spaceship landed softly on the bluegrass of Veridor. It was the first time a human had stepped on this alien planet. Jason looked around. Everything was calm. The air was clear. The sky had 2 suns, and the trees glowed faintly even during the day. The people of Veridor came slowly, their tall silver bodies moving without fear. They didn't carry weapons. They didn't shout. They only smiled. Jason smiled back. He had read about Veridor in the mission files. It was known as the planet of truth. No one on Veridor could lie. Their minds simply didn't understand how. Truth was part of their DNA. They spoke it, lived it, and believed in it fully. He walked forward and said, "I come in peace." The aliens all bowed slightly. One of them, named Jelen, stepped closer. "We believe you. All your words will be heard as true." Jason paused. That was strange. No scanning, no tests, just trust. Later, they gave him food, bright fruit, and warm drinks. They asked about Earth. Jason told them Earth was beautiful, but also full of danger. He said there were monsters in the oceans, and fire in the skies. The aliens looked surprised, even worried. One asked, "Why would your people live in such a place?" Jason laughed a little. "We are strong. We fight the monsters and survive." He was joking. Earth didn't have monsters in the oceans. But the aliens didn't laugh. They took his words seriously. One of them whispered, "Humans are brave." That was the moment Jason realized something. They believed him. Every word, no matter how strange, no matter how impossible. He looked around the quiet, peaceful place and thought, what would happen if I lied more? The next day, he tested it again. He told them he was a royal leader on Earth. "Millions listen to my words," he said. "I came here to share wisdom." The aliens bowed lower than before. They brought him gifts, shining crystals and golden leaves that hummed when touched. They asked him for advice. They believed he was powerful. Jason didn't feel guilty. Not yet. He thought it was just fun. They weren't getting hurt, and he wasn't taking much. But then came the girls. 2 young alien women with glowing eyes and soft voices began following him everywhere. They offered him songs and dances. "We wish to learn from you," they said. Jason told them stories, some true, some not. He said he once lifted a mountain, that he could see the future in his dreams, that his touch could bring luck. They listened with wide eyes, believing every word. He began to feel something new, power, not from force, but from belief. These aliens had never known a lie, so they had no defense against one. Jason's words were like magic to them, but not everyone was amazed. An older alien, quiet and calm, watched him from a distance. His name was Drail. He never spoke much, but he never looked away from Jason. One night, as Jason rested, Drail walked near his small ship. The door was closed, but Jason had left his comms on. He was talking in his sleep. Drail heard the soft words. "They believe everything, even the mountain story. This is too easy." The next morning, Drail said nothing. He only watched more carefully. Meanwhile, Jason continued his game. He said the stars spoke to him. He told one girl she would soon meet a cloud shaped like a heart. The next day, a strange cloud did appear and she wept with joy. Jason smiled, not because he was proud, but because he had guessed right. They would believe anything, anything at all. But something in his heart began to feel heavy. Each time someone bowed, or brought a gift, or smiled with pure eyes, something inside Jason whispered, "They don't know. They can't know. And one day, they might." That night, Jason stood on a tall hill, looking at the twin suns. He whispered to himself, "On a planet where no one lies, the one who does ... becomes king." But behind him, in the shadows, Drail stood still, and he had started to understand something humans never thought possible. The truth had begun to break, and it all started with a single, small lie. Jason stood before the great crystal hall, surrounded by hundreds of Veridans. Their silver faces glowed softly in the morning light, and their eyes were full of respect. Some even looked at him with wonder. One alien child whispered, "He is the one who speaks to the stars." Jason smiled, calm on the outside, but inside his heart was racing. The more they believed him, the more they gave him. Food, shelter, songs, attention, everything came easily now. He had told them a lie about the sky turning red before a great storm. That night, clouds had rolled in by chance, glowing faint, red in the fading sunlight. The aliens were shocked. "He knew," they said. "He warned us." That small, lucky guess turned him into something more than a visitor. They now called him the future speaker, and no one questioned it. They brought him questions every day. What plants should we grow next season? Will the river rise this month? Should we travel to the West Hills? Jason had no answers. He just made things up, and every time, they believed. But not everyone clapped and smiled. The old alien named Drayle still watched quietly. He said little, but his presence was steady. He asked nothing. He offered no gifts. He only observed. And that made Jason uncomfortable. One evening, while others sang songs about the voice from the stars, Jason sat with a group of elders. They asked him about his past. He spoke slowly, choosing each lie with care. He said he had spoken with creatures made of light, that his words could change storms, that he had once healed someone with just a touch. They believed every word, but Drayle was not there. That night, Jason returned to his resting place near his small ship. It was quiet, too quiet. He stepped inside and noticed something. His recording device had a small blinking light. Someone had touched it. He played the last message. It was his own voice, from the night before. They're so easy to fool. I just make it up as I go. They have no idea. Jason's chest tightened. He knew someone had heard it. He looked around, but saw nothing. Still, something had changed. The next day a new gift arrived, a rare crystal, shaped like a flower. It was said to bring long life. Jason held it in his hand, smiling at the beauty, but his eyes were watching the crowd. Dr. Ael was there, silent, as always, but this time, he met Jason's eyes and didn't look away. Later that day, a young alien named Keller approached Jason. She was soft-spoken and gentle. "Tell us what you see in tomorrow's stars," she asked. Jason almost said something easy, a bright day, a lucky moment, but instead, he hesitated. "Tomorrow, ... may bring surprise." She smiled and thanked him. That evening, nothing unusual happened, but in the minds of the aliens, surprise could mean anything. One saw a rare bird, another found a strange rock. Each one connected it to Jason's words. Again, they clapped. Again, they cheered. But that night, something else happened. Drayle invited Jason to the edge of the valley, where the wind was still and the stars looked close. He pointed upward. "You said the stars spoke to you." Jason nodded. "They do." Drayle tilted his head. "What do they say now?" Jason looked at the sky. He thought for a second, trying to build a new lie. But then Drayle said something that froze him. "I heard your stars speak last night. They used your own voice." Jason said nothing. Drayle's eyes were kind, not angry, not cruel, just ... sad. "We believed because we cannot lie. But belief is not blindness. Some things can still be seen." Jason felt his throat tighten, but he stayed calm. "You must be confused," he said. Dr. Ael nodded slowly. "Perhaps, or perhaps I'm learning. Perhaps, because of you, we are changing." He turned and walked away, leaving Jason alone in the dark valley. Jason sat down, staring at the stars. For the first time, he didn't feel like a hero, or a leader, or a prophet. He just felt ... seen ... and far away, unknown to him. A group of young Veridans were quietly listening to Drayle's story. They didn't fully understand yet, but a seed had been planted. A quiet, gentle seed called doubt, and once planted it would grow. The wind on Veridor moved gently through the glowing trees, brushing the silver leaves with a soft sound like whispers. Jason walked slowly along the forest path, a group of Veridan children following him with curious eyes. One of them asked, "Will the river shine blue tonight, like you said?" Jason nodded. "Of course. The stars told me this morning." The children smiled and ran off, excited to tell their families. Jason smiled too, but his eyes didn't shine like before. Something had shifted in the past few days. The way some of the Veridans looked at him, less amazed, more quiet, like they were thinking more, wondering more. Drayle hadn't spoken to him again since that night in the valley, but Jason could feel his presence like a shadow, calm but firm. And ever since then, strange things began happening. Small groups of Veridans would gather in corners, whispering in low voices, something they never used to do. Two young ones, Keller and Tomar, were seen walking into the learning caves, where ancient memories were stored. Jason knew those caves were rarely visited. They were where the Veridans kept old thoughts, dreams, and questions they didn't often ask. Until now, Jason tried to stay ahead of it all. He told more stories, more wonders, He said the wind was speaking to him now, not just the stars. He warned of a sleeping mountain that might wake up in 5 suns. He spoke of a bird that would sing 3 times before a lucky moment arrived. And by luck or chance, some of these things happened. A mountain rumbled faintly, just once. A bird sang twice, paused, then sang a 3rd time. The believers smiled. He is still the voice, they said. But others, like Keller, had begun to notice something deeper. They started writing Jason's words on memory stones. They began checking how many of his sayings truly came true. And they realized, not all did. Keller followed Jason one night. She didn't hide in shadows. She just stayed quiet and far. Jason didn't notice. He was walking with one of the temple guides, asking questions about the ancient objects locked inside the sacred hall. One artifact in particular, a glowing orb with a soft humming sound, caught his interest. "What is it?" Jason asked. The guide smiled. "It is called the Mind Echo. It reflects thoughts. Long ago, it helped us hear ourselves clearly, but now, no one uses it. We speak truth already." Jason nodded, but his mind was already spinning. A device that shows thoughts could be dangerous or powerful. What if he said something near it? Would it show something else? Could he use it? He asked if he could study it. The guide agreed. "You are the voice. We trust your path." Keller watched from the edge of the temple, her hand clutching the memory stone. She had heard enough to worry, but not enough to act. Later that night, Jason sat inside the small resting dome given to him. He recorded a new message. This one was different. It was for Earth. "If anyone receives this, Veridor is not what we thought. They're smarter than we believed, but they trust too easily. I've gained influence with simple words. Their tech is ancient but strong. If handled right, this planet could become useful." He paused, then added, "I'll continue the story, but if I disappear, you'll know they found out." He turned off the recorder. What he didn't know was that Keller had quietly placed a truth-humming crystal near the window. It picked up vibrations and translated thoughts. A rare object, hard to find, but she had it. The next day, Keller met with Toma and 2 others. They listened to the recording. Their eyes widened, not with anger, but with confusion. Jason had told them so many good things. He had given guidance, made people laugh, even brought joy. But now, why would he speak 2 truths? Toma asked. "One for us, and one for others." Keller didn't know how to answer. They didn't tell the elders yet. They wanted to be sure. So they decided to test him, quietly, carefully. Next day, Keller asked Jason if he still spoke to the stars. Jason smiled. "Every night," she nodded. "Then can you ask them what color the sky will turn tomorrow at sunset?" Jason paused. It was a trick question. The sky always turned the same soft purple, but he smiled confidently. "It will glow green," he said. "Just once, a special sign." That evening, the sky turned purple like always. The next day, nothing was said, but fewer people gathered near him. Jason noticed. He told himself it was just a quiet day. Maybe the winds had kept them indoors. But the truth moved quietly beneath him, like water under glass. Later that week, one of the younger Veridans entered the temple and stood before the Mind Echo. He spoke one sentence. "Jason tells all truth." The orb glowed. Then it pulsed. Red meaning uncertain truth. That night, a silent group stood on the far edge of the village. They said nothing, just watched the stars. And one by one, the questions began to grow. Not loud, not angry, just quiet, but steady. Jason sat near the edge of a glowing pond, tossing small pebbles into the still water. Each ripple faded slowly, like the silence that had started to follow him across Veridor. Days ago, the crowds had been thick, voices full of praise, faces full of trust. Now, fewer came, and those who did, watched him differently. They still smiled, still listened, but something behind their eyes had changed. It wasn't dislike, it wasn't anger, it was something softer, but heavier. Doubt. Jason tried harder. He shared new stories, ones that touched their emotions. He told them the stars whispered about a hidden temple beneath the hills, that only he could open it, that inside was knowledge meant only for the chosen truth-bearer. He said, "That's me." The temple, as expected, didn't exist, but Jason gave them a location anyway, just far enough to buy time. They'd search, they'd believe. That's how it always worked, at least before. But now, more Veridans were keeping record stones, writing his words, checking old sayings. Some even compared dates, star patterns, even plant cycles. It wasn't natural to them, but curiosity had bloomed, and in one young Veridan's mind, that curiosity had become something more. Keller was no longer just listening. She was observing, following his steps, reading his patterns. She began to understand something that no one had understood before. Not all words were the same. Some were shaped to sound good, others to control. Jason's words, so smooth, so perfect, did not match his small actions, his long silences, or the strange smile he wore when no one else was watching. She remembered how the mind echo glowed red when she spoke his name. She didn't speak of it to the elders yet. She still wanted to be certain. Her world was built on truth. She didn't want to be wrong, but something inside her felt sure. Jason wasn't just mistaken. He was shaping their truth into something else. One day, Jason asked to visit the Echo Temple, the place where Veridor stored its oldest items, gifts left behind by sky travelers long ago. The Guardians were unsure, but they allowed it. He had earned their trust, or at least, most of it. Inside, the temple hummed softly. Jason walked through the glowing halls, eyes locked on one item, a crystal staff. It held no power, not anymore, but legend said it once helped speakers connect with thousands through thought alone. Jason imagined holding it in front of a crowd, speaking once, and being heard by all. He turned to the Guardian. "I think I should carry this," the stars told me. "Its time has returned." The Guardian hesitated. "No one has held it for many cycles." Jason placed a hand on the staff, smiling. "Then maybe its voice has waited for mine." Outside the temple, Keller watched from a distance, eyes wide. She wasn't alone now. Toma and 3 others stood with her. All had begun noticing patterns, the missed signs, the twisted tales, the way Jason's words always returned back to himself. But how do you challenge someone who speaks so beautifully? How do you question a person who has only ever brought light and comfort? Keller remembered her little sister asking Jason, "Will I grow tall like the star trees?" Jason had laughed and said, "You'll grow taller than the stars themselves." The girl had smiled, glowing with joy. Now Keller wondered, was that kindness or control? The next morning, the Council of Elders asked Jason to share his vision again. They had heard the talk about the hidden temple in the hills. Some had already begun searching. Jason spoke confidently. "The temple lies beneath the black ridge. It's covered by mist. Only those who believe may find it." One elder asked, "Have you seen it?" Jason nodded, with the eyes of the spirit. But that same night, Keller returned to the mind echo. This time, she spoke not about Jason but about truth itself. She said, "Can someone speak beauty without honesty?" The orb pulsed, then glowed soft orange. Unclear. Half-truth. A warning. She stayed silent for a long time after that. Far across the village, Jason stood alone on the rise above the glowing forest. He watched the stars, trying to remember why he had started this. Was it for fun, for power, or just because he could? He whispered to the wind. They needed something to believe in. But the wind did not answer. And deep inside the memory caves, Keller made a discovery. One of the old symbols on the wall matched something Jason had once claimed to invent, a stomep. He had said it came to him in a dream, but here it was etched in Veridan's stone, long before he arrived. She stared at the mark. The lie wasn't just in his voice, it was in their history now, and for the first time in Veridor's long, peaceful memory, someone began to understand what it meant to be fooled, not by strength, not by danger, but by words. Words wrapped in charm. And softly spoken by a stranger. The soft blue light of Veridor's morning sky touched the tops of the trees, spreading across the quiet village like a gentle wave. The usual songs that greeted each new day were missing. The pathways, once filled with laughter and questions for Jason, now felt still. Jason noticed it the moment he stepped outside. The smiles had faded, replaced by short glances and quiet steps. Even the children, who once ran to him with shining eyes, kept their distance. He tried to wave, to offer a friendly word, but their answers were short and uncertain. He walked through the village with calm on his face, but deep inside, his thoughts moved quickly. Something had changed. The belief that once surrounded him like warm air was slipping, and he didn't know how much they already knew. He reached the center of the village, where a large circle of stone seats waited. Usually, these were filled with listeners, questioners, believers. Today, they were half empty. A few sat with heads low, whispering to one another. A few watched him without speaking. Jason took a deep breath. "I bring new words from the stars," he said, but no one answered. Finally, one elder stood. His voice was soft, but clear. "There are whispers, Jason, about your words, that some are not from the stars, that some are not even from truth." Jason kept his smile. Every path to wisdom begins with a whisper. Doubt is natural before clarity. Another Veridan stood. It was Drail. He hadn't spoken for many days, only watched from the shadows. But now, his voice rose like a steady breeze. "Do the stars give you power, Jason? Or do your words create the stars you want to see?" Jason's heart beat faster, but he didn't show it. "I do not control the stars. I listen." Drail took one step forward. "Then why do your words grow while your signs shrink? Why do you speak of hidden temples, but leave no footprints behind?" Jason opened his mouth to answer, but the words didn't come as quickly this time. Before he could speak, another voice rose. Keller's. She stepped from behind the circle, holding a memory stone. "This stone holds your message," she said quietly, "the one not meant for us." Jason's eyes met hers. Calm, careful. "I make many recordings," he said. "Some are misunderstood." Keller walked into the circle, then explained this part. She said, "You said, if handled right, this planet could become useful." "Useful for what, Jason?" The village went silent. Jason took a breath. His mind searched for a way to pull it back, to turn the moment into something gentle again, something hopeful. He looked at the crowd and raised his voice just a little. "Veridor is precious, peaceful, but it is also fragile. I only wanted to help protect it. My words were meant for Earth, to bring support, not control." Drail looked at him closely. "Then why speak of ruling?" Jason paused. His smile faded for the first time. Then, slowly, he turned his words in a new direction. "I said those things because I was afraid," he began. "I come from a world where truth is not simple, where trust must be earned and power must be held to survive. I arrived here and saw a planet that doesn't protect itself, that doesn't question. I thought, maybe I should help guide it, even if the path wasn't perfect." He looked around. "If I am wrong, let your wisdom show me the right way." Some of the Veridans nodded slowly. They still wanted to believe, but the silence wasn't full of trust anymore. It was full of hesitation. Later that evening, Jason walked alone to the edge of the cliffs, overlooking the silver rivers below. The twin moons reflected off the water. Peaceful as always, he sat down on a flat stone and spoke into a new recorder. "They know, or they're close to knowing. I tried to make it gentle, tried to keep order, but they've learned too much. Words are no longer enough." He stopped recording. A breeze touched his face. Behind him, Keller and Drail stood far off, watching. "What will he do next?" she asked. Ael answered, "That depends. Does he still believe in his voice more than in their ears?" The next day, Jason stood before the village again. This time, his voice was louder, sharper. "There is danger coming," he said. "A storm not of weather, but of spirit. Another traveler, a shadow from the old days. It hides in the rocks, waiting." The Veridans looked at each other in silence. Jason raised his hand. "Only I can stop it, but I need your trust once more. Fully, completely." A few nodded. Some looked unsure, but one of the elders stood slowly. "There is no shadow," she said. Jason turned toward her. "You don't see it, but it's there." "No," she said. "You don't see that we no longer believe in shadows made of your words." And for the first time, Jason stood in the middle of a crowd and felt truly alone. The early light of Veridor touched the quiet village like a soft breath. Nothing moved. No footsteps on the path. No voices in the air. It was the kind of silence that did not feel peaceful, it felt waiting. Jason stood in the temple hall, holding the crystal staff he had once claimed was meant only for him. The glow inside it had faded, just like the belief in the eyes of the people. Around him, empty space. No curious questions. No hands reaching for his words. The truth had begun to rise, slow but steady, and now it filled every corner like sunlight. After a long night, outside Drail walked with steady steps. Keller followed quietly behind, her hands holding a memory stone, one of many now. Dozens of Veridans had recorded Jason's past sayings. Dozens had started comparing what he spoke with what came true. The gap between those two things was growing wider each day. The elders gathered in the circle once more. This time, Jason was not asked to speak first. He waited, eyes calm, but heart unsteady. Elder Fenner, one of the wisest among them, finally looked at him and said, "There is no storm, Jason. We searched the ridges. We found no signs. There is no enemy hiding. Only silence." Jason stepped forward. "That is because I warned you in time. You acted quickly, and the danger passed." Some eyes flickered with hesitation. Others narrowed with doubt. Keller stood. "You said the stars told you, but last night the stars did not speak. They were still. The sky was quiet." Jason turned to her. "You cannot hear what I hear." Keller raised the memory stone. Or maybe there was never anything to hear at all. The air held its breath. Jason looked around and saw what he had feared most, not anger, not even hate, but quiet understanding. The kind that came when a puzzle finally made sense. "I gave you purpose," Jason said, voice soft. "I gave you stories, visions, hope. Before me, you followed patterns. Now, you ask questions. You remember. You explore. Isn't that worth something?" Drow's voice was clear. "It is, but it is not yours to give." Jason's smile faded. "You needed something, and I gave it." Elder Fenner shook her head. "No, Jason, you gave us what you thought we needed, but it was only what served you. There was no force, no judgment, no sharp words, only truth." And Jason could not argue against it, not here. Still, he tried. "If I leave," he said, "what will happen to this place? You doubt now, but what comes next? Another outsider, someone less careful than me." My lies were soft. "What if someone brings harder ones?" Dre replied gently, "Then we will remember. We have learned now, not just to hear, but to question." The circle of elders stood as one. Elder Fenner stepped forward. "You are not banned, you are not hated, but your voice will no longer guide us. Your words will be heard, like all others, measured, not followed." Jason stood still, hands by his sides. No one moved to stop him as he turned and walked away from the temple. No guards followed. No one shouted, but every step he took was heavy. Later, at the edge of the village, Jason sat beside the same pond where it had all begun. The water still shimmered. The breeze still hummed through the silver trees. Everything looked the same, but everything had changed. He spoke into a recorder for the last time. "Veridor is no longer the same. Not because of me, but because of what I showed them. Not power, not lies, but choice. They didn't know they could question. Now they do. And they chose something better." He closed the device, placed it on the ground, and looked up at the twin moons. Footsteps came behind him. It was Keller. She sat beside him, quiet. After a long moment, she said, "You taught us something real, Jason. Not with your stories, but with your mistakes." He nodded slowly. "Then maybe that's the one truth I never meant to tell." Keller stood and walked away, leaving Jason by the pond, where the stars above no longer whispered only to him. Now, they whispered to everyone.